Hey, how's it going? My name's 808 and welcome to another episode of MW3 Tips, the show where I tell average gamers how they can get slightly better at Call of Duty MW3. I hope you're all doing well. I'm in a pretty good mood today because I have just visited JB Hi-Fi, which if you're not from Australia, then it's kind of like the Nirvana for geeks, and when you go in there, you're pretty much certain that you're going to spend a whole lot of money on stuff that you don't need. But it's always full of good stuff, and yeah, I managed to pick up a few things today, so I am happy. But anyway, today's video we are going to look at a class setup for Domination, which is a game type which I do like to get into every now and then, and really does require a completely different playstyle and therefore class setup to do well in. Now, just because Domination is an objective game type, it doesn't mean that your team is necessarily going to be playing the objective. That has always been one of the big complaints of the Call of Duty community, that people don't always play the objective in the objective game types. They're people that are running around trying to be slayers and thinking they're some sort of hero, grabbing all the kills and not actually helping out at all. So this particular class setup is going to focus on capture those flags or those domination points, irrespective of what your team is doing. So we're simply going to assume that your teammates aren't going to be helping you out, and we're going to choose our perks, weapons, and equipment based on the fact that we're going to be the lone objective player in the match. Now, hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully that when you play, you run with some friends and you can communicate, because that's generally the best way to win Domination, is to be communicating on your headsets. And generally play with people that you know or friends, so that you can watch each other's backs and call out where enemies are and all that sort of stuff, because that will give you a massive advantage. If you've ever played online against people who are communicating, no doubt you've experienced what it's like to get absolutely dominated. And you don't even need to be a ridiculously good player to dominate in Domination, so long as you're playing with a well-coordinated team. So with that in mind, let's move on to the class setup, which will best optimize your performance in these Domination game types. So for the primary weapon, I'm going to recommend the Scar L. An assault rifle is a good choice when playing Domination because it's a good all-round weapon, so it'll be handy in most scenarios. If you prefer the ACR over the Scar, that's totally understandable. I just prefer the Scar L. I know that the ACR has better stats, but I don't know. I just don't seem to do that well with it. So for the Scar L, I'm going to equip Kick to keep our recoil down, and for the attachment, I'm going to select a silencer to help keep us off the radar. The iron sights on the Scar are pretty good, so I don't think that you need a red dot, and the silencer is going to reduce your muzzle flash as well, so you shouldn't need a red dot or a holographic or any other kind of sight on the weapon. For the secondary weapon, I'm going to recommend the G18 with extended mags. Once again, this is a pretty good all-purpose secondary weapon, which is good to pull out in those sticky situations when your primary weapon runs dry. For our equipment, I'm going to recommend the Bouncing Betty. This is very useful to stick on positions that you've already locked down, so hide it in a bush or somewhere that's very close to the area, so any enemy that comes up and tries to capture that point is going to get a nasty little surprise. For our second piece of equipment, I'm going to recommend using the flash grenades. They're always very useful when trying to capture objectives or even defend objectives, and when we get to the perks, I'll explain specifically why the flash grenades are so useful. For our point streak, I'm going to recommend going with the support class. The reason for this is when you're playing objective type games, particularly Domination, getting kill streaks is not necessarily going to be as easy because you'll often be playing defensively and not necessarily playing to get kills. So the support class will just allow us to get those point streak rewards without actually having to get huge kill streaks. So the first thing I'm going to choose is UAV. This is immensely helpful for you and your team, and definitely a no-brainer when playing a team-based game. Next up, I'm going to go for the SAM turret. This is going to be very useful for destroying those enemy killstreak rewards, such as the attack helicopter. And finally, I'm going to choose the escort airdrop. It does take 18 kills to get up to this point, but when you do, it is immensely helpful for your team. And often there's some nice goodies in there, such as recon juggernauts and so forth. For our perks, I'm going to recommend the Recon perk. You may remember from a previous video that I said that the Recon perk was one of my favorite blue perks, if not the favorite blue perk. Particularly when you're playing Domination, this thing is invaluable. If you toss it at an objective, you have an idea of how many enemies are on the objective, either capping or defending, and what direction they'll be facing. So this is very, very useful. So particularly when you've got those flash grenades, you'll have a couple of grenades to essentially get a little blackbird when you throw these things out. So very, very useful. Blast Shield is very useful also when playing Domination. This is going to help us take less damage from grenades. So if you're capping or defending an objective and people are tossing grenades at you, your chances of survival are much higher. And also the Pro Variation allows you to be fairly resistant to stun grenades. It's not completely resistant, but you would definitely not be stunned as bad as if you didn't have this perk on. The final perk that I'm going to recommend is Marksman. This one is pretty awesome when playing Domination. Allows you to spot enemies much, much further away than you would be able to normally. And when playing Domination, you definitely want to be able to see those enemies who may be camping out, defending an objective, or even rushing to grab an objective. So definitely worth having this particular one on. One of the most important things to remember when you're playing Domination is communication. Communication is definitely key, even if you're playing with a whole bunch of people who aren't communicating. If you're on your headset and you're calling out where you are and what you're doing, it's definitely going to help your team out. So say for instance you're capping A, if you call out, hey, capping A, you may find that people will come to your assistance and help capture that point with you, which is always a good thing. The other tactic that I've found that's very useful in Domination is called bumping. So that's when you go to grab an objective and you start capturing it, but then you run away and find yourself a nice little hidey hole and wait for the enemy team to come and protect that location. They'll expect you to be on the actual flag capping it, when in actual fact you'll be waiting to ambush them so you can take them all out. And I found that to be a very, very effective way of capping flags. So just give it a little bump, then go hide somewhere. The enemy team will come running, they'll expect you to be on the flag, they'll have absolutely no idea where you are. You can take them all out and then you can cap the flag at your leisure. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my Domination Dominator class setup and strategy for Domination. If you did like this video, go ahead and give us a like. If you haven't subscribed to Game Tyrant, please do so and click that subscribe button, and I will catch you guys later.